if you're going to be my leader, talk to me about me as a person. Then, what it led to in working with this coach is, I think all of us have blind spots. I'd been in this career at that point for 27 years or so. Working with an executive coach, getting on board with my executive coach really helped me find those blind spots. But what I found in Parks and Recreation is people come out, not just kids, but adults too. They're coming out to experience their passions, to get better at their passions.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig, LeBlanc, and Tasha with the Daily Parks and Rec Show, and we have a special guest, Ivan, all the way from Oregon, right outside of Portland, a city called Lake Oswego. Am I saying that right?
You are.
And yes, and he has got quite an interesting story, and he's one of the few, maybe, Parks and Rec directors that his wife is also a Parks and Rec director. So we need to get the real story one time and have both of y'all on the show.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting with the both of us on. So
yeah. So maybe go back a little, back to who you were as a high schooler. How did you get into Parks and Rec, and maybe what sparked that interest? I don't know if you were in Parks and Rec as a child early, or if you discovered it later in life.
Well, I mean, I grew up in rural Northern California. So, my young years, I was involved in sports for sure. I mean, I did a lot of school sports. I did rec sports. But really the first contact that I had with true Parks and Recreation was probably through the local swimming pool and taking swimming lessons as a young kid. And then that progressed to playing in recreational basketball leagues as a kid. I also played in recreational football leagues as a kid. So those are really my first experiences with Parks and Recreation. As a kid, I didn't really know what that was. I always aspired to be a coach. I had a lot of people in my life that guided my life when I was young that were coaches, and I really looked up to them.
Now, that family or
yeah, my dad coached. My dad coached me in baseball. All through Little League baseball. And so that was one. But then, especially in high school, I had some really instrumental people, my track coach, my football coach that I really looked up to. And, I really it didn't click with me what Parks and Recreation was compared to just doing sports, being in school, until I was actually in college. In Missouri, because I originally attended college to be a teacher and to be a coach. Yeah. So I wanted to be a science teacher during the day, and I wanted to coach football and track.
What science has interested you the most?
I was actually kind of interested in all of them. I'm a fan of physics. Also like biology, chemistry. So I definitely was interested in those. And then when I was in college, physiology was a big thing for me, kinesiology. So I took all those classes like I was going to be a teacher.
Wow. Okay. So now you're in, and how far did you go down that teacher path? And by the way, Tasha, hop in anytime. We're basically trying to give Ivan a platform to tell his story to young kids, and then also just to raise awareness of the industry. So yeah, she works with Parks and Rec all the time.
Yeah. I went pretty far down the teacher thing. I went to community college in California after I graduated from high school to kind of get my basic stuff done. And then interestingly enough, I got recruited to participate in track at a small private school in Missouri Valley College.
As a student?
As a student, yes.
What did you throw in, or what did you do in track?
I threw. Primarily I threw javelin.
No way.
But in high school, I was a shot putter. So,
I feel like
kind of.
So to have both of you.
Yes. What are the odds?
Yeah.
So did you threw in high school?
I didn't throw javelin because in California they don't have javelin in high school. Right, so I was a shot put discus thrower.
It makes more sense. I grew up in California and I've never seen javelin.
Yeah, because you could stab people with it. There's a few states that don't allow it. I would have got a scholarship in track for javelin, but I took the cheerleading scholarship because it was bigger. But I loved it. I coached track for 9 years, and so you must have been pretty good to get that in college, though.
I was okay. I was fair. It was a small NAIA school, so I wasn't lighting things up.
What's your furthest throw in discus?
Yeah. Well, I was recruited by a Division II school in California coming out of high school to throw shot put.
Okay.
Ended up not attending that, and then ended up hanging out in my local town, going to community college. I coached track for there for 2 years, and then when I moved to Eastern Oregon, started my career in Parks and Rec. I coached for about 6 years.
Right.
I'm there too. So
still, though, you must be a mountain to throw shot put, because all the shot putters I threw, I was like tiny compared to.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting. I'm about 5'10" and soaking wet in high school. I was probably about 200 pounds.
Wow.
But I qualified for the state meet my senior year. So yeah, I had some really, really good influential coaches in my high school years for shot.
That can make all the difference. Maybe while we're here on this topic, speak for a moment about how important athletics and coaches' influence was and is to young kids.
I think it's paramount. In school, you have your academic, people that are teaching you, to really sharpen your mind and learn topics like that. And then you get, through, and I went to public school. Through public school, you get a lot of socialization, just hanging out with your friends and that kind of stuff. But from a standpoint of teaching you really how to become a leader, the leadership training that I received as a child was definitely through sports and through coaches, and setting the example for me, and basically saying, hey, you need to set an example. If you're going to be a leader, you need to set an example. You need to be the person that is keeping people on track. So I look back on anything, and I don't have the greatest leadership skills in the world, but the ones that I have were definitely started at a pretty young age, when I was put in the position, and where the expectation from coaches were like, we need you to step up, be an example for everybody else, and lead them. So I think it's really important, and probably the most important takeaway from sports in general that people can get.
Right.
And working together as a team and all of that as well. So.
Yeah. And you see so much of that literally in spades coming out of the Parks and Rec industry in y'all's leadership, because so many of you have a sports background, coaching background, and, there's leadership and discipline skills. I think that's much of what y'all are leading with as directors. Okay, so you got teaching in, and then tell me a little bit more about how you got it from teaching into Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I was in officially my senior year of college at Missouri Valley College, and I was an education major, and I had a couple practicums where they put you in the classroom, but the teacher stays there. And I had one that was it was a private school in town, and it was a PE practicum. Went great, no problem. And then I was in a general science, 7th grade general science practicum, and really, and this was, this is early 90s. The behavior of some of the kids and the structure of the school, it really shocked me. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can, do this.
Can you describe that structure a little bit more, just so we understand a little bit better?
Well, I have this philosophy, schools do a wonderful job teaching our kids, and also allowing our kids to learn social skills, be exposed to coaches, learn things, leadership and stuff like that. But the basic thing about about schools is kids have to be there.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. They're not choosing to come and do something that they love doing or that they want to get better at. And so, the fundamental difference between like being a PE teacher or a science teacher or something like that is that your audience is really like that captive audience that has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids really love it, other kids don't. But what I found in Parks and Recreation is people come out, not just kids, but adults too. They're coming out to experience their passions, to get better at their passions. And so with that type of audience, they're much more engaged in a positive way.
So, okay, how old were you when you figured this out? Or when you
I figured this out probably shortly after I graduated from college with
in your
my
20s?
degree. So mid 90s.
You must have been like 23, 24.
Yeah, 24 years old.
Holy
I
cow.
was in Newton, Iowa, working for the YMCA. I had done an internship there. And as I was doing that internship, and then I later got hired to do family programs and adult sports coordination for them. The feeling, and I had a bad taste in my mouth about education because of that experience that I had in college and that practicum that made me switch my major like almost.
That's still a tremendous amount of awareness that you had at such a young age to be able to spot that early in your career. You're basically dealing with almost little prisoners in school because they're forced to be there. They have to be there. But if they're coming to Parks and Rec, baseball looks like baseball, but it's not, because in one case they're kind of forced to be there, and in the other case they're probably trying to rope their parents into being a part of it.
Yes, exactly.
More of an extracurricular. It's an outside of school activity.
Well, and I would say that a lot of kids that grow up wanting to be educators, it's because they enjoy learning. So you're excited to teach children that are also excited about learning. But you go into a class and find out that the vast majority are not that kid.
Yeah. That's a great point.
I wasn't that kid. I didn't enjoy learning. I was all about sports.
Me too.
And so I didn't enjoy learning, but I also part of it was why I wanted to get into education is because I always felt that I learned in a different way. And I couldn't put my finger on it until actually I got to college and figured out in college. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. He's a busy guy.
Silenced everything but that phone.
Right.
Anyway, but I didn't really put my finger on that. Boy, that's annoying. But now I just lost my train of thought. Oh well. I was making a point there.
You wanted to become an educator because you learn differently.
Yeah. I figured that I learned differently. And, when I was in school, I always thought, hey, you just gave me these math problems. We just learned them in class. I did a couple examples. I understand this. So why are you sending me home for 2 weeks doing the same kind of math problems for 2 weeks, doing hundreds and hundreds of repetitions? And I didn't really need that. So I got into education kind of going, well, maybe I can impart on still doing that with the kids that need that, but also offering another way for kids to learn and being able to identify that. And, when I was in college is when, academically, I did well. High school, not so much. Junior high, not so much. But when I got into college, it was so much easier for me because I was on my own. I was learning the concepts, and it wasn't just repetition for the sake of repetition. It was
right.
Really getting to understand. So, but that's why I got in, or thought that I wanted to get into education. And then, the abrupt change was I realized that the system was so rigid.
It is.
I wasn't going to be able to do that. And also, my experience working for the YMCA, it was like, wow, I got to work with these people, with these families, with these adults, with these kids. They want to be here.
Yeah.
They get out of their cars, they walk into the facility, and they have big smiles. And
they're excited to be there.
Yeah. And it's like, wow. And much easier to lead and mold people when they're excited to be there.
Yeah.
They just set an example because they just eat it up.
Yeah. And I might even add that, especially with AI and education being so, now if you want to know, if you think about knowledge, if you want to know something, it's really at your fingertips with these cell phones now that have
Yeah.
the globe's information ready to go, packaged
Yeah.
by the greatest content influencers on that one niche topic. Whereas what you're teaching is more about internal personal discipline, dealing with stress, working as a team. Those are the lessons that I think it's hard to put on an app. You know, whereas if you're learning physics, you can go on YouTube and look at some of the best influencers creating awesome content around that subject matter. But if you're learning personal discipline when you're running cross country or something, that's an in-person experience.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then also, you know, I like Parks and Recreation because we're not just about necessarily the physical body, but you know, we provide spaces that people can go out and they can experience nature. It's one thing to read about different kinds of birds and the way they sound and all of that, but you don't get that unless you're actually out in the space and you're experiencing that.
Well, and I hate how education is really for like pre-K to PhD. And it's like, wait, no, we educate the whole time from morning to night, cradle to grave. And your industry literally takes you from the cradle. You got moms pushing babies to y'all are maintaining the graveyards and everything in between. So you're educating people throughout their entire lifespan, which I think much more meaningful than just.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And we're in the process of actually acquiring a Pioneer Cemetery in town.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be our grave. But we do provide stuff, Mommy and Me programs and opportunities for newborns and stuff, all the way through, you know, our adult services. We give respite to family members that are taking care of other family members that might have Alzheimer's or dementia or something. So, I mean, we're pretty full service, and, you know, there's not any other industries out there that can say that.
Not at all. Not
and
at
that,
all.
And really what we're doing is we're promoting people's passions, and we're, you know, we're promoting that lifelong learning. And it's not the book type learning that you get, but it's that personal interaction with other people.
Right.
Learning. And it's, you know, it's amazing, you know, and oftentimes, you know, I've been in the industry for 30 years, I guess. And, you know, there's only a few times in my career that I've actually sat back and kind of reflected. And when I do, it's the one place that I go if I start getting stressed, start feeling like, oh man, is this really worth it? And really, you know, it only takes a few moments of reflecting and having a memory of something that was good. And it's like, oh yeah, there's a reason I'm here.
So maybe this would be a great time to go into, you know, what's your passion, or maybe you define what's your why. Why are you in Parks and Rec? Because I mean, obviously it doesn't have good benefits, but not all the time the highest pay for your skill set. So what are the other forms of payment that you get that's part of your why?
Well, you know, it's interesting you ask that because it's actually changed over time.
Oh, I love that. So tell us the evolution. Where did it start?
Yeah. So it started like I was just talking about. It was about making that connection with people that wanted to be there, that wanted to improve, that wanted to learn something, that wanted to have a great experience. And, you know, my passion was providing that and having a part of that, facilitating them and giving them the opportunity. And it's interesting because in Parks and Rec, you know, I would have never thought that I would have to deal with, you know, 13-year-old litigation about a private lake access that's in the community, you know, and that's the type of stuff that I do now in my career. But I kind of transitioned pretty early in my career. I had 3 years of my career where I worked kind of as a coordinator, manager of recreation services. And then the small community I was working in Eastern Oregon decided to create a Parks and Recreation department. And, you know, I had the opportunity to move into the position as Parks and Recreation director. So, you know, I was 28 years old when that happened, 27 years old when that happened. So, but I also had the opportunity to build a department basically from nothing. We had some recreation programs and parks. But then it was really about, connecting people with things like that. But as I moved through my career, my passion changed from how do we know we're doing a good job? Back when I was younger, it was like, we need to do, and I was constantly moving. I remember early in my career, I ran flag football leagues. I'd be out there at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I'd be hand painting the lines, and then I'd referee some of the games, and then I'd go to my office and I'd input the scores. And so it was like hands-on. You
That's
saw
everything. Yeah.
everything like that, and never really seemed to have the time to look back and go, well, am I doing this right? How do I compare? What are the services we're doing? How do those compare to other agencies? What are best practices? What are standards? So, that transformation slowly happened. But in the middle so the beginning was about people and the happiness. Now I would say my passion in the sport or in the profession is to leave this organization I'm with better than when I came into it.
Love it.
We went through CAPRA accreditation. We've done a lot of foundational things to bring our organization up to the best of the best.
You went through CAPRA on your watch, or is that something they were in the middle of?
No, it was on my watch.
Oh,
it was
wow.
completely driven by me.
That's your first city you've brought through that?
Yeah, it's the first city I brought through it, and
That's
it
huge.
took us about 6.5 years to get through it from when we first introduced it. But that was something that I really drove hard.
How many cities in Oregon? How many cities of Oregon have that? I imagine y'all must be.
There have been a total of 5, and there's right now there's 4 that are accredited. One of them had accreditation, renewed once, and then hasn't renewed. So, but yeah, there have been a total of 5 here in Oregon.
Yeah, that's it. Well, congratulations on that. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So, but in that middle phase between those two ends, in the middle phase, it was my passion was about developing people, developing leaders, developing managers.
What caused that shift for you to go into more people focused?
Well, it was really, it was kind of mid-career. So I spent 15 years in Hermiston, Oregon, rural Eastern Oregon community, had great opportunities there. I was going to be there for 2 years and then, jump somewhere else. I ended up staying for 15, had the opportunity to build a Parks and Recreation department from nothing. But in that, I was still in the mode because of the resources we had that I was still doing a lot of stuff and we weren't reflecting back. We weren't making sure that everything was the best that it could be, primarily because we didn't have the resources and I didn't have the time resource to actually look back and like pause and do that because I was doing everything that our rec people were doing and everything that our parks people were doing. Everything from going out and helping cut up fallen trees if we had trees that fell down in the park, to going and still refereeing, some games, and lifeguarding, going out on the deck and being a lifeguard as the director because I needed to. But I had a change, moved from Eastern Oregon to the Portland area, got a job with the agency I'm at now, and as the assistant director at the time. And my eyes kind of opened up to I'm surrounded by people that are better at what they do than I was ever at what they did. And so what's my role? What's my role in this? I can't be the content expert. I can't, tell our sports supervisor how to run sports leagues because our sports supervisor was better at it than I had ever been, and it's kind
probably been at it for 2 decades.
Exactly. And it's one of those where it's like, you see that, and then it just dawned on me that, well, not everybody is the same. Not everybody's on the same page. Not everybody has the same, we call it the North Star that they're shooting for. So what my job really is to bring these wonderful people together focus them on a mission, on a vision of what we need to be, and then provide them with the opportunity and the tools to improve upon not their technical skills, but really on their management skills and their leadership skills. And so,
and where did you get that from? That's quite a mature leap. How old are you at this point, by the way?
Well, so interestingly enough, when I was in the small rural Eastern community, I worked under a city manager that had been there for like 27 years, which is really weird for city managers.
Yeah, that's a long, usually they churn through city managers.
Yeah, like five to 6 years and they're gone.
Right.
But he'd been there for a long time, and he was really interested in organizational development. And so he got us as staff and as department heads involved in a program out of the University of Virginia, high performance organizations, and it was through the Darden School. So, the principles of, and I still use these principles of kind of segregating task management and leadership skills. There's 3 buckets there, and primarily, somebody's professional career starts off and they're doing tasks. They have things that they have to do. They move into where now they have to manage people that are doing things. And then they transition into where they need to lead everybody in the organization. So, I still use that. I still talk to all of our managers and supervisors about that. And I talk to them about, when we recruit people, what are we recruiting for? Are we recruiting somebody because they know how to operate a mower? They're willing to clean a public restroom, worst job in the world. Or are we we can teach them those skills pretty quick. But when we interview them, are they displaying any type of management? Like, do they understand the concept of, being free, being equitable to the people that they're working with? Have they expressed in their life that they've been leaders? Have they been captains of sport teams? Have they, have they taken on things in their life or positions in their life where they've led other people in their previous jobs? So, we talk about that every time we have a recruitment. Like, what are we recruiting for? I'm at the place in my career where if I'm involved in an interview panel, I'm looking for somebody that can ultimately take my job.
Fantastic. Now, are you involved in the interview process?
I used to be a lot more. And for full disclosure, for about the last year and a half, I've been working with an executive coach to kind of
nice
tune some of my things. So we have I've adopted a rule that's 1 degree of separation. So
explain that to everybody.
So I'll be involved in interviews. So I have a couple deputy directors that hire superintendents, managers. I will be involved in their process for superintendent managers. So skipping them to 1 more degree, and I'll be involved at whatever level they want me to be involved in those interviews. But anything below that in the organization, my involvement is I make myself available at the time that the managers made a selection and that they want me to sit down with the person that they selected to talk a little bit more about our organization, our internal culture, our vision, our mission, what we're about. But I don't, I used to routinely be involved in some coordinator, even some parks crew leader interviews and things like that. And I've really worked to not, and part of it is just empowering those managers and supervisors to make their decisions, because ultimately they're building their teams. They're leading their teams. And, since we've been doing that, it's been great to see, because you start to see some of the leadership skills of some of our middle managers, like, improving. They're like picking people on their team that they're comfortable leading and that they know they can lead to get work done.
Yeah, that's going to be Chris and Catlin, that's going to be one of our short clips out of this video. And maybe you can even say more about how important it is to empower people to lead by really stepping out of their way. Because that's,
my job, people ask me, and even people I work with, it's like, well, what is your job? Well, my job is to make sure that you all have the resources so that you can be successful. Now, I can be one of those resources, but most time I'm not. I'm the person that's looking out to making sure that we have the money, the financial resources we have. I'm the person that's going to HR, to the city manager's office, and saying, we're understaffed in this area and we're not able to provide the service that the community is asking for, because we don't have the people to coordinate to make that happen for the community. And then, also dealing with leading the team in like policy development to make sure that we have the policies and procedures in place so that we can be successful and that we can be, I like to say above reproach, but quite honestly, that's really what it's about. Making sure that when we put the tools in the hands of our managers, so when they're making a decision, they know that they're backed up by our organization, that our managers all the way up through me understand what those policies and procedures are. And that even though people don't agree, and sometimes, my boss doesn't agree with it, I can always point back and say, we had a collaborative process to create this. We as professionals believe that this is the best way to deal with this situation, and we have it written down. And I'm willing to listen, to my boss and to the elected officials if they want to change that. But at this point, that decision was made because we have that policy, that procedure in place. So, and that's why earlier when I was saying, I went from seeing people smile, getting out, doing what their passion is, and that's what my passion was, to see these people doing that. Now it's seeing the people I work with,
right,
the people that are moving up through the profession, feeling confident, gaining
that's
confidence.
such a great shift.
It is. It's been wonderful. Yeah.
Well, and I imagine it gives such a sense of fulfillment, not only for you, but those that are working with and for you, to be able to create this change that was also your goal. They're able to implement those shifts and decisions and really make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to play one of our videographers made something for the industry. So this is for Parks and Rec directors that have high schoolers and college kids. I know most of you go from 50 employees to 350 employees when you start hiring summer camp counselors and lifeguards and grass cutters. And these are the high schoolers that are making decisions where they're going to go to college and what they're going to go to college for. And so many times someone like Ivan just needs to stand up in front of them, play this 1-minute video, and start the conversation. And before you know it, out of these 300 kids, 10 of them might say, you know what? Ivan looks a lot like me when I was little, and this is something I've never considered before. How many times in this industry have you heard those words? I never considered Parks and Rec, and then,
I have some, well, not recent, but I do have some people that I've hired that have come primarily from private industry, and when they come here, usually it's within about 3 to 6 months. They're like, I never knew that there were careers in parks and recreation.
I know.
And I never knew how diverse it was.
Yes. It's not just directors. It's coaches, directors, accountants, marketing people, superintendents. It's and every city has a Parks and Rec department with 20, 30, 50, 100 employees. It's typically the largest employer. I didn't realize this. Did you know Parks and Rec systems are typically the largest employer of high schoolers in their city?
Yes, I did. And actually, I pounded that drum with the chamber.
And how do they not know about Parks and Rec as a career path?
It
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
sense, but I wouldn't have guessed that either.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So I'm going to play this one. Chris made this one. It's about 2 minutes long, and it kind of talks about the colleges that are even offering programs. So we'll listen to this, and then I want to come back and talk about your executive coaching and how that's playing into everything we're talking about. Hold on 1 second.
Your career, your community, your legacy. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. Today, we're diving into one of the most rewarding and impactful career paths out there, parks and recreation. Are you unsure about your career path? Don't worry, we've all been there. But here's a thought. What if you could build a career that combines your love for the outdoors, creativity, and community impact? Did you know colleges like Indiana University, NC State, and Texas A&M offer parks and recreation degree programs? These courses prepare you for exciting careers, from urban park design to event planning and even environmental conservation. Careers in parks and recreation are as diverse as they are impactful. You could become a park manager, ensuring green spaces are accessible and beautiful, a recreation coordinator, organizing community events and sports leagues, an urban planner, designing parks that bring neighborhoods together, or even an environmental specialist, protecting natural resources for future generations. Parks and recreation isn't just a career, it's a way to create lasting change. Whether it's through managing a local park or leading a conservation project, you're making a real difference. And here's the best part. Parks and recreation is for everyone. Whether you love planning, designing, leading, or conserving, there's a role for you in this exciting field. Choosing parks and recreation means choosing a career full of purpose, passion, and possibilities. And you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take that first step. Ready to get started? Explore programs at universities like Michigan State, Clemson, or the University of Utah. Discover the career that's waiting for you. Are you passionate about the outdoors? Curious about a career that makes a real impact? Or maybe you just love learning how parks and recreation bring communities together? Then it's time to subscribe and follow the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
All right. So if you're a kid and you want a career that will blow your mind and throw challenges at you daily that you never expected, Ivan can tell you all about that.
Yeah.
It's you never know what you're going to have to become to solve the problem that Parks and Rec will throw at you. Maybe speak a little on that and how executive coaching. I'm so glad you've done that.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It's interesting. When I first came to the Portland area, 14 years ago, that was actually my first experience with executive coaching. And again, I think it's coming from a small rural community that, socioeconomically was stable, but not by any means a community that had the means, to a community that's very affluent, that has high expectations. So I worked with an executive coach the first 2.5 years that I was here. It was part of kind of the program that my director at the time was kind of like, hey, we want you to be successful. We want you to kind of broaden what you're looking at and how you look at what you're doing. We know you have a lot of experience in this, but we want you to really do that. So I worked with a person out of Portland State University and a graduate program that they had, where they had some executive coaches for a few years. And then really, not that I didn't need it, but went through a transition to becoming the director. Had a lot on my plate, and then just went from there and started moving forward. About 1.5 years ago, although we were accomplishing a lot, we were, we had passed a bond in 2019, the largest Parks and Rec bond ever in the community. We were doing these wonderful projects. We were going through CAPRA accreditation. We were getting a lot of our professionals certified through NRPA. We were doing a lot of those things. It was one of those things that it came to me that people needed more from me. Not just as the person that is kind of leading the way and helping them, but somebody that could really sit down with people, understand them, show that I cared about them, not just their professional. I think I've always been really good at being that cheerleader in the office going, we're going to accomplish this. Great job, you know that. But they wanted, and I saw this, it was expressed to me that they wanted more of a connection with me, like more of, if you're going to be my leader, talk to me about me as a person. And so that's kind of what it started off with. And then, what it led to in working with this coach is, I think all of us have blind spots. And even though, I'd been in this career at that point for 27 years or so, working with an executive coach, getting on board with my executive coach really helped me find those blind spots, and some of those blind spots were, making sure that you have consensus of your senior leadership. Even though I was the director and I would speak to people and say, this is the way we're going, I didn't always have consensus with, my senior leaders. And to give you kind of a concept here, I've known both my deputy directors in the profession for over 25 years. So I've worked with them for, going on 14 years, but I've known them for a long time through our state association and everything. But it became apparent that I really needed to work on making sure the three of us were on the same page and that our communication style to everybody was the same, because people were interpreting what we were saying differently. And so it was causing confusion, frustration, in some places, some anger, and so, that was one of my big blind spots. And, the other thing was to really, the executive coaching has helped me focus really back toward the people. And that's, for me, that's has been a very interesting journey the last year.
And maybe Tasha can speak on this, but, as you're leading people, there's a difference between being the athlete and being the coach. It's two different skill sets. And just because you're a great athlete doesn't make you a good coach, and vice versa. And so when you bring a coach into your life, since Parks and Rec people have such a athletic background, they understand coaching. But coaching is no different when it comes to leading people as an executive as it is with a sport. So which team do you think is going to excel? The team with a coach or the team without a coach? So you're no different. Maybe y'all could speak on that a little.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and sometimes your coach has to have, a coach, your leader needs that and needs a perspective. This coach, interestingly enough, that I chose, I'm the first person she's ever coached that's in Parks and Recreation.
I was going to ask if they had a history in Parks and Rec to be able to understand how to coach you efficiently and effectively.
No. And I would venture to say that had I hired a coach that had experience in Parks and Recreation, that I wouldn't have benefited as much, because
that's a good observation.
Yeah. Well, people in Parks and Recreation, we have a perspective. It's kind of like inside the walls of the kingdom. We kind of know what's going on, and we can talk about that. So my executive coach actually has a long history of coaching executives in the medical field, CEOs, COOs, executive boards, to hospitals, to healthcare industry.
Mm.
So her perspective, and I've been working with her for about a year and a half. Her perspective has been from an outsider looking in and getting to understand the industry, but also going, there are things that people have been doing in the industry that I have experienced that it doesn't seem Parks and Recreation does, regularly. And so for me, and again, going back to focusing on people, one of the first concepts she threw out to me was rounding. We have informal conversations all the time, the water cooler, if you're in the same place. Organization that I'm with, I've moved. I'm now in my 4th location for my office. You can see the beautiful wallpaper behind me.
I love it.
So we've gone from being the recreation side being together to being blown up into multiple sites, to being together to being blown up into multiple sites. So there's not as much of that informal conversation. And it was something that was identified as I'm lacking making that connection. So, one of the first concepts she came to me with is, executives of hospitals, executive of healthcare industry places, one of the things that they regularly do, take the time to do, is they get out and they walk the floor and they check in with people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't check in with people about performance, about how the job's doing. They check in with the people about who the people are.
Right.
You ask a few leading questions and then you just sit back and you listen and you let people tell you. And, in some cases I get great insight about what's going on with the culture of our agency. In other cases, I learn about people whose, kids just joined the military and they're going to basic training, or I had a dog that I had to put down. And so I went and bought 2 puppies, but me being there as a director and being able to sit, go around and talk to people and has been, one of those things. But it's not, we talk about the water cooler conversation because we're in the same place and we're localized, and everybody kind of talks about that. But in the industry she comes from, they make it a purposeful thing. So I find myself, I get out, we have about 6 different locations where I have professional staff. So I find myself now, I'm making time so that I make sure I get out to those spaces on a weekly basis. I walk through the buildings and I talk to people, and I'm just like, hey, what's going good today? And it's not about work necessarily, and people interpret it how it is. And then I just sit back and listen. And, so bringing somebody with a different perspective into this environment is great. The other thing, the executive coach is really made it more robust in the things that we've always done in Parks and Recreation. We have our little team meetings that are centered around programming, centered around park maintenance, centered around project management, communications, marketing, all those things. And we've always had those. How can you supercharge those? How can you bring up things that are important to the organization and to the organization's culture? How do you keep people on point with vision and mission? And how do you do that when you're at these meetings, when you're going to those meetings? So she's really helped me with honing in and essentially saying, your job isn't necessarily to get involved in the conversation about the technical stuff that's going on in your department. Your job is to remind people why they're here, what we're trying to achieve.
I love that.
And it's become something for me where I really got away from like structure in meetings, and the meetings always tended to go down that path of, okay, everybody's going to tell the director what they're doing and, what's going on and what they just got done with and what they're going to do next. Death by meeting. And so
Right.
now, I have like a definite structure, even for meetings that I'm attending that it's not my meeting.
Yeah. We may need to get her on the show one day to help maybe coach the nation.
I was going to ask for her contact.
Oh, she would probably love to do it. She would be an interesting one.
I'd love
worked with me.
to get her. And for those of you that haven't read a book by Jim Collins, it's an older book called Good to Great. And there's a chapter in there on level 5 leadership. They talk about Lee Iacocca, the level 4 leadership of that cheerleader, everybody centers around, maybe the best athlete on the team. But the level 5 leaders you never hear about. You only hear about their companies. Them you've never heard. But some of the greatest companies in the world have that servant's heart, have, they lift others up. They know everything about everyone on a personal level, it seems. And they really invest in their team. It sounds like this is exactly the path she's driving you down.
It is, and it really is. And we've talked about that book and so some other books.
A great book.
Yeah, and and the thing is, I feel like I'm in a place where investment in myself and transforming myself as a leader is I'm in that good place where I think that had I known that it would have been so beneficial, hindsight, probably would have still been working with the original coach from 14 years ago. Maybe would have changed coaches at some point and had that continuous. But I really feel, and even though 30 years isn't that long, I mean, I know a gentleman that just retired from an agency close to us that put 57 years in the same organization.
Wow.
And he went out in the highest regard. He wasn't just sitting there taking up space, refusing to leave. He was genuinely making the people around him better, making his community better till the day he decided to leave. So, that's kind of the legacy that I want to leave. And, I think that I've kind of course corrected over especially the last year. And, I hope that I have many, many years to offer in the future. So.
Oh, yeah. Look, if you can invest in yourself on an infinite level and the degrees of excellence that you can achieve as a human, I mean, they're boundless. And so it is hard to lift your team above what you've been able to lift yourself. So investing in yourself is investing in the team, because most people, if they can't see somebody do it, they're stuck in the belief that it can't be done. But if you're leading by example, then you're at least one data point showing them, well, he did it, so maybe I can do it. So yeah, don't ever slack on investing in yourself. I love this executive coaching idea for directors. I think you can't be the only one, but you're the first that I've spoken to.
And it's offered by the city. It's just something that professionally, it's amazing.
Offered by the city. And and that's the other thing with the organization I work with now is we're a learning organization. So throughout our city, not just in Parks and Recreation, we put an emphasis on really giving people opportunities. I have a person in our department that went through and got her master's in public administration, and the city paid for the entire thing.
That's incredible.
I love that.
And that's one of the huge benefits too of kind of being with an agency that has the resources to do that is really we invest in our people. So.
Yeah, and that is so critical. A lot of people think that it's a waste of money, but any of us, the 80-20 rule not only applies to the people, but it applies to the individual. So not only do 20% of your people do 80% of the work, but 20% of your personal hours do 80% of the work. So if you can find a way to make each hour count for more through executive coaching or personal development, then I'm sure Ivan can look back on his life and say, yeah, my hours today are way more impactful than my hours 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Always a good investment to invest in your people. And that seems to be an industry-wide, I guess, culture of investing in your individuals and lifting up, not being really afraid of somebody replacing you or leaving after you train them up. But I think people stay around because they feel like their agency invests in them. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Our agency, we have a really low turnover rate. And our vacancy rate is really low, and it's a testament to the fact, and I'm talking about Parks and Recreation, but I'm talking about our city as a whole, but what that does create with an agency, and we're seeing that here in Lake Oswego is, we have some departments that have done so well holding on to their employees that now we're kind of having these mass exodus where people are just getting to retirement age.
Oh no.
Like a whole crew of them are getting to retirement age. So,
That's the right way to lose an employee is they get old and like, I'm done.
in like an example, like our police and fire departments, they're going through massive changes right now. I think police has had 15 people retire in the last 2 years, so they're having a massive changeover. And, we've celebrated a couple retirements, and then we've actually had some key people leave, in the last year. We had a parks manager who now is the Parks and Recreation director in the neighboring community, and though I was sad to see her leave, what I expressed to everybody in the department was I was super excited for her. I mean, that is fantastic to have somebody from our agency move up and we didn't have the opportunity in our agency, but found an agency and they are now investing in her and she's doing wonderful work.
Right.
So,
but the word will get out about your city as a place to work because you invest in people. And so you might lose one of your best and brightest, but you might have 10 others apply to try to beat your door down to get in because, you care for your people. That the word gets out. And believe me, everybody in Parks and Rec knows everybody else in Parks and Rec.
Absolutely.
They do. Yeah. And it's not, going back to, I think our earlier conversation before we came on, it's Parks and Recreation as a profession isn't like the highest paid. You're not going to end up, getting rich. You're not, we're not on the level of a lot of industries. But what you will get is you will get the sense of community within the people you work with. If you're working for local government, a lot of cases it's fairly stable. And then the benefit is that a lot of organizations that I know, they do, one of the way that they retain people is they invest in people. They make people better. They give them opportunities. And, that, to me, that's one of the biggest pitches. I have an older brother that I grew up with that is in private industry, and he makes all kinds of money. He's jumped around probably 7-8 jobs, in the last 20 years, and not because he had to, but because he was jumping for the better thing. But none of those organizations that he's worked for have really invested in him to make him better.
Yeah.
You really
can't.
They can't.
If you're an industry that focuses totally on the bottom line, the paycheck is 95% of the compensation. When you get your paycheck, you get a piece of paper with dollar figures on it. You get a really good benefits package, but then you can stack up about 7 or 8 other paychecks you get every Friday, from your executive coaching to meaning fulfillment, making a difference in your community. You're becoming a stronger leader and individual. All those other people that are getting almost 100% of compensation from that check, that's all they're getting.
Yeah.
Whereas you literally have all these other benefits. Plus you get to see the fruits of your labor real time in people that you're impacting.
Yeah.
That's just not in these strictly for-profit, bottom line driven for-profit businesses. And they almost have to be. Yeah.
They have to be to survive. Where, and people ask me, and we talk about, cost recovery and, all of these things. But at the end of the day, us working for government is we're really providing a service, and we're trying to use the community's tax dollars the wisest we can to spread that the best service we can and the most service we can to the community. And any way you cut it. And I've had a couple, we've had, let's see, in 29 years, 28 years working for cities, I've seen a lot of city councilors and mayors get elected and come in, and we need to run like a business. We need, I run my own business. We need to take up this practice. And in all cases, without an exception, after about a year of them being in office, they start to understand that we're not here to make a profit and to sell like a product to people. We're here to provide a service that really enriches everybody's lives, has them focus on themselves, has them focus on the community. We bring community together. And that's not something that you can go, oh, well, I need to make, 65%. I need to make this quota. It's not about that. The quota is that the community feels like they're together, that the individual feels like they have the opportunity to be the best that they can be through really seeking their passions. And that's what we do. We provide that service so people can seek their passions, be part of their community, and really enrich their lives.
That's powerful there. We're definitely clipping that one too. Chris, mark that one at the end. When I say Chris, I'm talking to my video editor. He and looks for little spot. Tasha, you were going to say something?
Oh, I think that it's interesting because a lot of people in the private sector will say that they work for a company that cares for them. There's a coffee cart there every morning. They've got bagels on Friday. They have these benefits that they feel like shows that their company cares about them. And I think the common misconception is working for the government takes you out of that caring atmosphere. And my experience in Parks and Rec alone has been the exact opposite. You are 100% not only a part of the community, but I think creating it in a lot of ways, both intrinsically with your own departments, but also just, in your whole facility and the community that you guys serve. I go to a lot of these conferences, and it's a family reunion every time. That's people coming from across the state, and it's hugs and screams and excitement and cheering one another on. It's a totally different level of emotional involvement.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys have fostered within your own.
Yeah. In a funny story about that, a few years ago when I was with the rural community, I don't know, a couple of years before I made the change and moved over to the Portland area, for a very short period of time, I thought, well, maybe I want to be a city manager. So, and I'm not going to bag on city managers. Their role is important. They do wonderful work. They have such a broad scope of things that they need to watch out for. But I had been attending for 12, 13 years these Parks and Rec annual conferences that were exactly like you said, Tasha. Like you walk in the door the first day, and there's high fives and somebody yelling at you from across the room, and then you're getting together with them, and it's like a family reunion. I went to a few city manager conferences. They weren't like that. There wasn't that sense, because really the type of work that they do is so under pressure that I think a lot are kind of in the survival mode of I have all these things to juggle. How are you juggling these things? Is there a little bit that I can? And I mean, it's so serious where, we put out an annual report to our community, which we call the fact book, and it's on an annual basis. And it is, information. And we have a lot of infographics in it, and we kind of make it fun. But those of us that are in leadership roles, and I can't take credit for it. This is one of the creative people. Instead of calling us the director, deputy director, supervisor, manager, whatever, we're the leaders of fun.
I love it.
And that's our thing. And that's the other thing, is that in the profession, not outwardly, obviously, but in the profession too, what I found is we're really fun. Like the group of Parks and Recreation, when we get asked to do the city holiday or the city barbecue or something, and we're in charge of coordinating and putting that on for the entire city, it's at a whole different level than any other combination of departments in the city. I mean, we know how to do it. That's our profession. That's our passion. But it's fun, and that's something to speak to kids. Getting involved. You want to have a workplace that's fun. I mean, that we're always thinking of what the next best thing we can do and offer to the community and give an opportunity. I mean, there's
right.
nothing like that.
Yeah, I like to say Park and Rec to people start retirement when they start working in Parks and Rec. They're not waiting to make a difference after retirement. Their day to day, their career is. Well, thank you so much, Ivan, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. There's so much more I want to cover with you, so we're going to have you back, and I definitely want to reach out to your executive coach. And Tasha, thank you so much for joining us.
Bring the wife next time.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can bring my wife too. She's a Parks and Rec director, and
get her take on it. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and I can't wait to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Thanks a lot, Craig. Yeah. Thanks, Tasha.
Take care.
All right.
All right, so that was Ivan over next to Portland, Oregon. Great director, and I really like seeing him develop himself and invest in his community. But all right, so what I wanted to do is we're going to play. This is one of the ways that you can support the channel. The Daily Parks and Rec Show is by purchasing one of our LED lights that work for one of your ball fields. And Tasha's company can control them through a very simple integrated cell phone application that you can control from your bed on a Sunday night. When somebody leaves the lights on, you can just flip them on. So not sure if that applies to any Parks and Rec directors that would like to remote control it, but we'll play this little commercial that Chris made for us, and then we'll come back and learn about Tasha's company. So hold on one second.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.
All right, so now we get to talk with Tasha about her company and the control systems that they've built. So maybe give us a little backstory how y'all got into Parks and Rec. And
yes, so I work for OutdoorLink, and we started controlling lights originally for billboards. Our founder was a billboard operator here in Northern Alabama, and it was a common issue just trying to keep lights on a schedule, know what was going on with them, having to do night rides weekly, monthly, and oftentimes not knowing there's an issue until somebody calls and tells you an issue. And it didn't take us very long before we realized that that's a common issue outside of the area that we were commonly doing business in. We got our introduction to Parks and Rec originally from the university space. University and K through 12 was kind of our break-in, and realizing that the exact same issues were there. Either the controllers were very costly and cost prohibitive, or just didn't actually solve the problem. No scheduling opportunities, no remote control options, needed Wi-Fi, just a lot of things that didn't work hand in hand with the infrastructure that was already in place.
And so that's another tricky one, is if you don't have Wi-Fi and you have some little neighborhood park that's in the middle of nowhere because you got this land donated that's in the middle of nowhere. So you developed it, and now you have no way to control these. So y'all system comes with its own cell phone, basically, connection to communicate with your switches and stuff, correct?
Correct. Each one comes with its own SIM card. So the exact same type of card that's in every single cell phone, and it's giving its connectivity. Because we've been on billboards for almost 20 years, we needed something that could connect in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the snow, wherever a billboard is. And those places are typically not in high populated Wi-Fi stable areas. The other side of it is security. If you have Wi-Fi, a lot of times you don't want somebody else's system using it, just from a security aspect. So it gives us the opportunity to not have to tie into anybody else's system and still offer that same remote control access.
Yeah. And that's really important, to have the ability to really control your lights from anywhere, because especially on the county level, some of the cities, where there's a lot of density for Wi-Fi or whatever. But when you're on a county and you've got how many park systems are just in the middle of just acreage or farmland or something, and then there's a baseball field, and this is where everybody practices on a Sunday, and then you get a phone call in the middle of the night that the lights have been left on, and so someone has to drive over there, get the big disconnect, turn it off, or you have to make keys. Has anybody ever made padlock keys to hand out to coaches to turn lights on and stuff? So all of that gets deleted by this system. And it's a really simple standalone system that y'all just you bolt right on top of your current switching system. If you have a timer or something, this just fits in its place. And then you have full and total control. Maybe tell us about the amount of control that they have through their cell phone app.
Yeah, so through our app or through a desktop system, either one, they're able to either turn lights on or off, set a curfew in place across all of your facilities. So if your city ordinance says everything needs to be off by 10 p.m., then no matter what, it's going to be off at 10 p.m. It will let you set schedules, unique schedules by day of the week. So if you already know what you're going to need, then you can set that ahead of time. And it can be based on the individual sunset or sunrise time for your location, or by time of day. So if you just need it on 30 minutes before sunset to make sure that your ball fields are lit, it will adjust based on the days getting longer in the summer, shorter in the winter. So you don't have lights burning unnecessarily, or vice versa, they're turning on too late.
And one thing I was talking with Tasha about this, I love about this company, is they didn't get a third party to design their app. They didn't get a third party to design their user interface. And when I say user interface, what I mean is when you touch an app on your phone, what do you see? What color is it? How does it flow? How large is the font? All that stuff. A lot of companies hire a third party to do all that. And when they have a problem, they got to schedule an appointment. They have their software engineers probably behind this wall somewhere.
Literally. And they're wonderful because I come at them often with development ideas that are brought to me by client needs. We're very client driven. So as development ideas come across my table, I bring it to them and try to decide how we can better fit our clients' needs instead of making our clients work within ours.
Yeah, and to the this is how you know you've got a good app built and a good company that you're working with. The onboarding process, she told me, let's say you've never used their system before. You buy their control system, you put it on their lights. Now I have to figure out how to control this thing. Let me prepare myself for an 8-hour tutorial. No, 30 minutes and you're qualified to run this system. It can be a little girl in the office. It can be a coach. It's super simple to learn. You don't have to have any technical skills whatsoever. And then you'll also have you'll have a help desk if you ever get
24-hour day help desk, and it's in-house. It's here in the building.
I love
So it's nice.
and American made.
Yes.
They manufacture them also in the same building. So all their technical skills are in-house, both on the software side and on the hardware side with 24-hour support. This is a system that many of my clients have used, and they speak very highly of it, which was the only reason I really wanted to partner with them, because I already use them. I understand it so well, and they're very Parks and Rec focused, so, which means they understand this industry at a deep level. 3 of the reps that are out there, Dave and
Yes.
Joseph, who I've met, are former Park and Rec directors, correct?
Yes, we have three of our in-house people are ex-Parks and Rec directors. So they understand the need and the headaches and the problems and all of the solutions they kind of wish they had. I think we have 5 people, maybe more, in-house that actually came from the client end, such as yourself, myself included, that we used the system and we loved it. And so it just was a natural progression when we were looking for something else to come over on this side of it, which I think is a testament.
And I cannot get over the price point that y'all do this for. So maybe talk about the pricing model and how cost efficient it is. You know, in Parks and Rec, we really have to be careful about the cost and controlling lights. Yes, it does save money. It saves time. You save on electricity of lights being left on. You save on paying someone to go overtime in the middle of the night to turn lights off that have been left on. But still, upfront costs, what are we talking about?
So upfront cost is under $1,000 for our hardware controller and a full year of service. Our hardware can control up to 4 items in one controller. So if you are flipping, 4 switches in one location to control 4 different fields, you can put all of that onto one controller and control all those fields independently for the same price. It includes an unlimited number of user profiles. So if you need to have team managers or admin staff able to turn the lights on and off, that's an option. The 24-hour service and the full use of our portal, which is, again, including that app that saves you from having to go out in the middle of the night to turn off lights because somebody's angry.
Yes. And to my knowledge, you may know this better than me, but I've been in this industry for quite a while. I don't think there's anyone in the industry that's even attempting to compete with y'all doing what y'all do.
I don't think so. We have a lot of players in the space in terms of lighting controls, but not to the simplicity level that is really needed for that type of, Parks and Rec need.
Yeah. And I have looked for it, I think, for years. And when I found y'all, I wasn't choosing between them and 4 others. It was basically, y'all have such a great product at such a reasonable price that is able to work remotely, that has its own cell signal attached to the device, that has in-house engineers on the software side, in-house engineers on the hardware side, that manufactures, that puts together stuff in-house. So they're not just ordering these from China and then just slapping their sticker on it and sending it to you. They're physically building them here. So they understand what could go wrong, what does go wrong. And more importantly, much like the software side, this product can evolve to meet any upgrades that the industry needs, and they do it all in-house versus asking some manufacturer an ocean away, can you make this little change? And they don't find out if the change works till 3 months later when the product shows up, or even worse, when your customer tells you it's not working.
Absolutely. I joked earlier that I probably drive our team crazy, but we had enough people that asked if we can do dimming on our controllers, and enough people asked, and lo and behold, now we have a dimming add-on. we are very client driven when it comes to the development, and we have the flexibility because it's all in-house.
Right.
So you ask, we can answer.
Yeah. And that's how we get such clean products. I know Apple was the one to really pioneer that, to not have a software company and a hardware company that were separate or third partied. But when the software engineers and the hardware engineers are in the same building, they can literally go to the water dispenser or the coffee counter and talk about things that they need the software, the hardware to do. And that's how it seems like you can iterate so quickly and make a change that the industry needs. And all this right here in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yes.
I love
Who
it.
knew?
That's right. Greatness comes from North Alabama.
Yep. A lot of engineers here, so it
That's
makes
it.
sense.
That's
But
it.
it's a great product, and I don't say that because I work here. I say that because I was a user for a very long time, and I say often, if I can learn how to use it and I can implement it and find it useful, then anybody can, because it's very simple.
Yes. Take this for a look. I'm a 20-year master electrician, electrical engineer, lighting engineer. I have engineered products. I've engineered LED lights, drivers. I've looked at their product and getting ready to take a tour of their facility here, but I already know what I'm going to see. This is made by engineers. It's very easy. If you're an electrician or you're a superintendent or you have even a handy guy there, it's super, super simple. And simplicity is hard. Complexity is easy. Anybody can make a super complex system that you need a master to operate. But to make something simple that just a coach can operate or your maintenance guy can operate, that's the genius. And that's kind of what they've done here. So really looking forward to potentially seeing how we can work together on the Daily Parks and Rec show, because it's pairs nice with the lights that we use to support our channel. And it's really needed, I think, especially in today's time. Technology is moving so fast. And I know Parks and Rec has limited resources, limited manpower. And so let's not waste any manpower sending people to flip a switch on, when it's so easy to just flip a switch on your cell phone to turn lights off across the planet. And so really, as long as you could turn these lights on from anywhere on Earth, pretty much.
Literally anywhere in the world. If you have cell signal or internet access, then you can control it. And we've really tried to structure ourselves where it's scalable, so that you don't have some things that are taken care of and some things that are still a headache. Control the small parking lot, control the little league fields, whatever you're currently having to go out and make sure are on when people need them and off when they don't. Make it easier for yourself.
Yeah. So look at it this way. Envision all the light switches, all the switches, not even light switches. Imagine every switch in your system, whether it's a ball field, pickleball, tennis court, soccer field, anything that has a light switch that someone has to turn off and on, maybe a coach, director, superintendent, somebody in maintenance. They allow you to bring all your switches into one digital device and switch them on and off just by toggling something on your cell phone.
And I'll even expand on that briefly to say digital screens, your little league scoreboards, and those items that might need somebody just to turn them on and off in order to program them and use them, or make sure that they're turned off at the end of the night. It's very, very simple, and it makes it all universal on one platform. So
Right.
you know that nothing's left out there undone.
And the good thing about their company is all of the field testing and pains and mistakes to deal with cold and remoteness and weather and all that stuff was, they cut their teeth with Lamar in these remote signs. And so all of that wisdom and what broke, and then you had to fix it. That's the wisdom sitting on top of this product that they now offer to Parks and Recreation. So it's not like they're like, we got an idea. They're way beyond that.
Yes. We've been doing this for almost 20 years, and we have a lot of units out there. You think about how many billboards you drive past every day. We're on them. We're on digital boards, static boards. So we definitely went through all of those problem times long ago and have now come out on the other side and have the confidence of being able to be in every type of climate, every type of high winds, high rain, all of the things that you can think of, and know that our board's going to withstand it.
Mm-hmm. And this is a second generation business. So we've got, what's your CEO's name? It was
DJ Jennings.
DJ, the son of the founder, who's really got a lot of runway in front of him. I think he's picking a great industry to go within. It's a great product that this industry needs and will need for many years, because there's so many fields that are not controlled at all, that we're still using disconnects and lighting contactors to turn off and on.
Flipping breakers.
Yeah. So this is a great way to make your city more efficient. This kind of plays right into the Internet of Things, smart city that we're all looking to do more with less. This is definitely a lot less effort to turn on that baseball field. So
yes,
got a great product.
Yes, thank you. I believe in it, but I think it can bring a great service to Parks and Rec.
Well, thank you for coming on the Daily Parks and Rec show. And Chris and then we're going to cut this into its own standalone show, because I really want to highlight y'all and try to get the word out for what y'all are doing. I think y'all provide a great service, great American company. And I think they're not going to let you down, both on the service side, the software product side, because this really is as much of a software product as it is a hardware product. This is a lot like an iPhone. You're holding software and hardware seamlessly bonded together by a group of people in one building. And that's rare that you see that. And that's exactly what you have here. So good job on creating this company. Y'all doing a good
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yep. All right. I will see y'all here again tomorrow. We've got great interviews all week. Thank you, Ivan, for coming on this show. I can't wait to have him back and get that is so cool to get that executive director on here. I mean, the executive coach. I think we're going to create some content around that. I really do
want her contact information.
Yeah, we're going to get that. All right. So I'll be here every day, 12 noon, Monday through Friday, creating content for the Parks and Rec industry. I also wanted to say, it'll probably take us, give me to like the 150th episode. We just recorded episode number 81. So I think April 10th is going to be our 100th episode. We'll do something special for that. But by the 150th, we're going to have an entire 1 hour show before this show starts. I'm working with a lot of superintendents to make content around park maintenance. So anything to do with maintaining your facilities, maintaining your lights, maintaining your control systems, maintaining your fields, maintaining your aquatic centers, anything like that. We feel like this is a part of Parks and Rec that rarely gets any attention from education, how to, careers in. And so we want to do our part with making this channel not just about leadership and directors, even though that's a critical component of it, but how much of your staff is dedicated just to maintaining this massive infrastructure that's many times 100 years old and billions of dollars per city. If you had to put a price tag on the facilities that a city maintains for Parks and Recreation, is huge, with multi-million-dollar budgets. So we want to start really making content for the maintenance side of Parks and Recreation. So looking forward to that. Probably going to hit maybe in April-ish, maybe April, May, but be looking out for that. And we also have a daily show, once a week show coming out with YPN. We've got a lot of YPN leaders that are coming together this Friday to create content. So having fun building out this media company for Parks and Rec, and we get to work with great vendors like Tasha here. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
And we will see you here again tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories, from a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation by highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.